可愛いみたいな。乗務員または駅係員までお知らせください。12時54分の発車です。発車時刻にご注意ください。車内販売の営業はいたしておりません。ご了承ください。貴重品は身につけてご旅行ください。14, 15 and 16 are for passengers without seat reservations. Smoking is not allowed on this train except in the designated smoking rooms located in cars 3 and 15. The smoking room in car number 10 is for passengers in the green car.
이렇게 노가 톤.
어?
そう。これがね、やっぱなんかこうやっぱやっぱ新鮮なんだよ。
いや、すごいなんか変わるよ。
ね。これって何なの？
わからない。
わかんないわけない。It's green tea cup. You know me? Maybe.
ちょっと待って。
お姉さんって出て
こないんだけど。お姉さん取ってもらえばいいんですよ。
あ、それ取ってもらおう。うん。ちょっとじゃあお会計取ってもらおう。あ、取ってもらおう。Yes. I help. Staff helps. Taking picture of us. Yes.
So actually, I have you.
あ、そうだ。
こういうの。はい。ごちそうさまでした。なんだこれ。
私は
あ、そうなんだ。おお。なるほど。
It's macro.
すごいな。これ？
Yes.
Yes.
I want to take 3 us. Take a picture and video here. Background.
Yes, it's good.
Good. みたいな。私の兄かなみたいな。じゃないんです。
これ？
どこでもいいけどね。
これ1日じゃん。
うん。いいんだよ、どこでも。1日だけど。
そうなの？
そう。あ。
これチョコレート入ってんのこれ。
そ
食べんのこれ。
う。いいんだよ。でもなんかいっぱい、土いっぱいついて、soil. Hands.
なんで
ああ、yes.
これ誰の
え
Oh, I forgot my phone.
はい、yes. みーちゃんの絵本。
はい、ピース。
イェーイI don't know.
もういいんじゃない
We? Sufficient? じゃあこれ止めあんま変わんないかな。ちょっと暗すぎるか。どうかな How about? Okay. Yes.
Hey, what's up? It's Comic95, this Savior, and I just wanted to kind of talk to you guys quickly about my experience with meeting my now father-in-law, but father-in-law to be at the time. I am married, but yeah, so to give you a little bit of backstory, I'm from Chicago, I'm a black woman, and I've been living in Japan for the past 6 going on 7 years. And yeah, honestly did not know my now husband for a very long time before we decided to get married. And I've already given my opinion on this stuff like in other videos, and I'll talk about it more in the future too. But I really like changed the way that I started looking at dating and marriage, etc. And I just focused on, you know, the fact that I knew that I wanted to get married, and I started looking at how things used to go traditionally. So older people did not, like, dating was not really a thing. And when people did date, it was literally for a short period of time. Men would literally date you and oftentimes marry you within a year. Like, a lot of the people that I know of, like, that are in my life that are older, when you ask them, like, oh, like, how long did you guys date, how did you meet them, the only time people normally dated for a significant period of time is if they were, like, you know, high school sweethearts or like went to school together, you know, stuff like that. But generally speaking, like, people that like met as adults, they met and married in no more than 2 years, and normally 1 year. Like, a lot of the people that you see that have like 50, 60-year anniversaries, etc., that's the reason why they were able to make that happen. And so, not gonna get into all of that, but what I will say is, I feel like, sorry guys, my alarm, I feel like there's a lot of people here, let me turn off my other alarms, that believe that, I'm just gonna like say it as it is, and let me tell you that this is gonna be a very controversial opinion. And I used to believe this too, and I'm not just speaking on this myself. I knew and, you know, changed my thoughts on this before I actually got married. And my opinion will stand even if I get a divorce in the future, God forbid. But yeah, a lot of people feel like if you're a black person, especially a black woman in particular, marriage is off the table for you here. And the reason being is, again, you have a lot of people, you know, spewing or telling you false information. And it's not just coming from, you know, white people. It's black people too. And I've talked about this before, and I'm going to just say it bluntly. A lot of people don't take into consideration what they look like. And a lot of people think they look a lot better than they really do. And this goes for all races of people, but I'm talking about my own race in particular, just keeping it real. There are people that are not being realistic with themselves. If you're unattractive, and, you know, I'm just gonna keep it real, being overweight does not help you. I am overweight too. I'm not saying this to bash you, but yeah, like, if you're not attractive, you're overweight, and or if your personality is just, well, polar opposite of that of a Japanese person, just keeping it real, yeah, you probably are going to have a lot more trouble getting accepted into someone else's family. But if those things do not apply to you, then you will not typically have any trouble. The vast majority of people's parents here are not racist. Especially, this is a general rule of thumb. If the person you're dealing with, their child, is not racist, meaning they were even willing to date and or consider marrying you, the likelihood of their parents being racist or prejudiced towards you is pretty much zero. Because the main reason why they probably don't have any prejudice feelings towards you is because, sorry guys, my back itches, they weren't raised in a household that taught that crap. So contrary to what you see online, what you see on movies and TV and even YouTube videos, most people weren't raised that way. We're not talking about Asian Americans or Asian Europeans, people that are living abroad, that were born and raised there. I'm talking about people that were born and raised legitimately, ethnically, nationality-wise, real Japanese people. And I don't mean this in an offensive way, but again, keeping it real. People that claim to be like, oh, like, you know, I'm Japanese or whatever, and it's like, okay, but weren't you born and or raised and went to school in the U.S., and you can't really speak on behalf of normal Japanese people here. It's no different than me speaking on Cameroonians because the majority of my DNA comes from there. I've never lived there a day in my life. I hardly know anything about their culture. I don't know how they dress. I don't know how they think. All I know was what I'm gonna read 2 seconds from now, okay? Or whatever somebody that's from Cameroon tells me. So with that said, it's not to take away from what you are, it's just accepting, well, what you are. If you're born and or living in a certain country for the majority of your life, then or especially the beginning of your life, which is where you really, form a foundation of your views and opinions, that's really what you are. So, I don't have to love America, but I am an American, and no matter how I feel towards my country, my way of thinking will always be ultimately American, because it's where I'm from. And anytime that I have a problem with anything in Japan, it's because I'm comparing it to my upbringing in America. So we're not going to get into that, but I just want to explain that, like, saying that you're dating outside of your race is completely different. If you're dating somebody that's Asian that was born and raised in the U.S. like you, versus, dating somebody that's Asian and, Japanese that was born and raised here. So, I feel like a lot of people, the reason why things didn't go good for them, like they don't have a good story or good experience, as I'm jumping ahead with this right now, is because of that. They were not dressed appropriately when they met the parents. They weren't seen as being attractive. They weren't seen as being genuine in the relationship. Parents have their own reasons, and this is a tough pill to swallow, but everyone that hates you and or dislikes you is not necessarily because of your race. And also, don't be fooled. A lot of the people that have been dating Japanese people here that think it's because the parents are racist, you're probably echoing what your ex-boyfriend or ex-fiance told you, because he just wanted to let you go for whatever reason. Maybe he felt that you were rushing him into marriage and he wasn't ready for it, and it was much easier for him to say, oh, my parents are racist, they don't accept you, than for him to be like, look girl, like, I wasn't trying to marry you, I didn't mind dating you long term, but I want to be free. So, and a lot of people don't want to explore these options because they want to believe their relationship was genuine. I'm just keeping it real with you. So there's a lot more that goes into it, but long story short, I promise you 99.9% of the people that you date here, their parents, even the biggest F-boys, their parents are not prejudiced, they're not racist, they do not care, as long as we are talking about black and white people. I'm not getting onto the subject of dating other Asians. That's a whole nother story, because a lot of people do, I won't say a lot, but enough people do have parents that do feel a certain way towards Chinese and or Korean people. But if you're dealing, or even people that are from the Philippines, because again, there's a lot of, scamming going on, people from Vietnam, the Philippines, etc. There's a huge concern that you're just using, their partner or whatever for, not just a spouse visa, but, to pull yourself out of poverty. So I'm not going to get into that for this video. I'm talking about the subject of black people, but, and more so my own personal experience. But I feel like a lot of people think that it's impossible to get married here, or that if you get married, you're like a 1 in a million and you'll never be accepted, and that's definitely not true. And this is not the first, well, hopefully it will be the last, but it's not the first person in his family that I've met before. This is just my first time making a video about it. I actually spoke a while back on Patreon saying that I was going to make a video about my ex-fiance, because I've been engaged before, when I met his family. In fact, his experience was arguably, I honestly had a more comfortable experience meeting their family in a way. I don't know, I have to think about it, because it was his father and his aunt and uncle were there too, and yeah, it was just really crazy. So don't get me wrong, they are very ignorant because they don't understand what isn't appropriate to say, but yeah, they were super friendly. And what I mean by that is, they were trying to make small talk with me. I'm talking about my ex-fiance by talking about the black things that they knew of and that they liked. So for example, telling me that they went to New York and how they went to a jazz club, things like that. So again, if you're a super sensitive person, you might find it offensive, but I appreciate what they were trying to do. They were trying to show me that they weren't racist and that they were interested in my culture, and they expressed how they needed to study English, that they could talk to me, etc. So, little things like that. So, contrary to what you think, you do not need to have Japanese language ability. It does help, but they honestly aren't really concerned. They're more concerned about whether or not their child likes you and how you treat them, and your willingness to learn Japanese language and or to learn Japanese culture. For example, I'm not the best Japanese speaker, but my father-in-law was really impressed with the fact that I could speak some Japanese, that I could read and I could write. He was impressed that I've been here for 6 years by myself. He was impressed, with my, thoughts on Japan, and the fact that, even when we were talking, because, he made small talk with me by trying to, break the ice and tell me about the things that he admired about America and that he liked, and about the bad things about Japan. And unlike being, an average person that probably would have been like, oh, yeah, Japan is horrible, X, Y, and Z, I made sure that I balanced it out, and I talked about how, yeah, America has things that it needs to work on, too, and, we need to find some balance. balance. There's good things to take away from Japanese culture. For example, thinking about the group instead of always just thinking about what I want, what I need, what I, want to do, and instead thinking about how what you're doing affects and benefits other people too. So too much of any one thing is bad, and I'm sure he was impressed by that answer. But I went into more detail than that. But we got onto the subject because he was talking about Japanese people thinking too much or caring too much about what other people think, and about their culture, with working too hard, etc., and about how living in America is how can I put it, how it changes your perspective or whatever, because again, like, we have a more relaxed environment. Nobody thinks so poorly of you, like, if you choose to leave a job. It's like, oh yeah, find a better job, higher salary, or you find something that benefits you more, you go for it. You want to do something, you do it. You're not thinking, oh, my parents won't be proud of me if I choose this career. So he was talking about how, like, he liked the freedom that America has. Their way of thinking is more free. So anyway, yeah, and so everything went great. He invited me into his home. I gave him I forgot what you call it, not the little, like, Christmas calendar things, an advent calendar, because I was thinking, like, that's actually a very simple and cheap gift that no one ever thinks of. Like, people always, like, freak out, like, oh, like, what gift should I bring, etc. And I talked about this before on my channel, and I'll make another video on it, but nobody's expecting you to bring gifts here. But since I already live in Japan and I was going to be meeting my father-in-law, I should come with something. So you should really ask your your partner what is an appropriate gift to bring, because, for example, I thought that alcohol was a great idea. Somebody actually suggested on Patreon, and I was told by my fiance, you probably shouldn't do alcohol. It depends on the person. Traditionally, it is a good idea, but you should really just consider who the parents are. Your fiance obviously would know them best. But yeah, my experience was wonderful. He really liked me. He was really nice to me. I will be honest, like, he wasn't, like, super, like, giddy, like, oh, you guys are getting married, oh, I'm so happy for you, whatever. He really, was pretty calm and relaxed. He even admitted that he was nervous at meeting me too. He felt, like, really unsure, like, do I speak English, do I speak Japanese, what should I say, what should I do, like, trying to, make a good impression on me as well. And so, like, for example, he played, like, Beatles music. He wanted to play English music while I was in the car, and so, like, just little cute things like that I appreciated. And as my gift to me, when I went to his house, he actually has, like, a garden, and, like, he gave me, like, a bunch of, like, fruits and vegetables to take back to our place here in Tokyo. So my husband's family is from Shizuoka. Unfortunately, his mother actually died of breast cancer, so I didn't have the opportunity to meet her, and I didn't get a chance to go to her grave either, but I plan to do that next time. It was too late. We had just came back from going to Kyoto and USJ and then spending time in Osaka, and we took the Shinkansen to Shizuoka, made a pit stop there before going back to Tokyo. So yeah, there wasn't a ton of time, but he paid for us to go to this really expensive, like, sushi restaurant, and then, like, not a really sushi restaurant, but kind of a sushi restaurant. I don't know what you would call it, but it was like a traditional Japanese restaurant, super nice and fancy. So we went there first for dinner, and then after we went there, we went to a, like, cheap family style sushi restaurant, but the sushi there was huge. It was not the cheap little conveyor belt tiny piece of sushi. It was big, large pieces of sushi, as you guys saw in the video. I tried some sort of, like, crab soup for the first time too, and honestly, it was too much food. I was thinking, like, oh, I thought that we were going to one restaurant, because I didn't understand we were going to two, because my fiance, my now husband, my fiance back then, kept referring to a sushi restaurant, and I was thinking that the first place was a sushi restaurant because we ate some sushi there too. And I also tried, I forgot to tell my family that I tried that blowfish, pufferfish thing for the first time. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like it's really overrated. The taste was okay. It wasn't, like, super delicious. I'm, like, craving it, but it was okay. It was very expensive, and yes, I survived. So yeah, I don't think I would ever probably do it again, because I feel like I have bad luck. I'd be afraid to do something like that. But yeah. Anyway, I had a really great experience, and of course everybody was staring and looking like, oh my god, foreigner, oh my god, black girl. So yeah, and as my husband, my now husband, back then fiance, even said that he can count the number of foreigners that he saw in the area that he lived. Like, he lived in, like, the countryside, like country Shizuoka, not like in no main area, because I know that there's, like, a lot of Japanese Brazilian people that live there, which, FYI, people that are Japanese Brazilian are treated just like how I said. Like, if I were to go to Cameroon, I would also be a foreigner. It's not just a matter of what your blood is ethnically, it's where you were raised, your language ability, etc. Somebody that was born and raised in Brazil is very unlikely to be able to speak, read, and write at a native level of Japanese, and or they typically have an accent, and their culture and way of thinking is different because of where they were raised, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just explaining that they are treated like foreigners here. But yeah, he was saying that like even people that are, you know, half, you know, Japanese, or people that are Brazilian Japanese, they're more like out into like the main city type areas. Like I said, he lives up in the mountains. Like there's no, like it takes like about 30 minutes just to get into like his neighborhood like area, just driving up a hill in the dark. Okay, so and I was spared. Like he was saying that there's always like big like bugs and spiders, etc. Thankfully I didn't see anything, even though it was late at night. And like his father like even warned me, like, oh, like, is she afraid of bugs? Like he was like warning him, like, you know, make sure that she understands, you know, we might see some stuff. So yeah, we went inside, we took pictures and videos together, as you guys kind of saw a little bit at the beginning of this video. But yeah, my experience was great. I was immediately accepted, and like the conversation that we had was him like really, like he was asking more questions than me and my then fiance even talked about that time. Like he was asking us about, you know, us having kids and where do we plan to live with our children, and what language are we going to like teach them at home, and what are they going to learn in school, and what type of school they're going to go to. Do you want them to go to Japanese school? Would they go to international school? And like, you know, how often are we going to visit him? Like he was really just concerned about, you know, that he wanted his son to be happy, and he wanted to make sure that like we're thinking about, you know, the difficulties of, you know, raising a kid that's going to be, you know, two different nationalities basically. Like, you know, where do you plan to ultimately settle down? Like, you know, you guys need to think about these things for your own child's sake. And so it wasn't like him trying to like pressure me to stay in Japan necessarily either. He really like kept the, you know, door open, and he was really just, you know, concerned about us making sure that, you know, we still, you know, invite him or visit him, etc., because he is older, and yeah, like that whole shebang. So there was no like real issue. Nothing ever came up about my race. He didn't say, oh, like, you know, you're a black person, whatever. Like the only thing that did come up was like, again, like him acknowledging the fact that I was an American. And he talked about how sadly, now this part, some people might be offended by this, but my father-in-law actually used to be a corrections officer. So he talked about like how the only Americans that he'd ever met were, you know, through his job. Obviously, you know, being a corrections officer, you're dealing with people that mostly are from the military that, you know, broke laws here in Japan. But that was pretty much it. He didn't say anything ignorant, no negative statements. I mean, beyond that, if you want to count that, but no negative, ignorant statements like that. And even after, like, we had, like, finished dinner and everything, like, he exchanged not just line, but he wanted to exchange phone numbers with me. And so, like, he, like, called me right there to make sure that it worked. And afterwards, like, he thanked me for my time and welcomed me to their family. And so he congratulated us after we got married, and he also invited us to like celebrate at his house, like to have a barbecue. And he also wants us to go strawberry picking with him, so we'll probably do that sometime this spring and summer. We'll probably do like the barbecue thing. So he's just been super, super nice. And actually the funny part is he was more worried about my family accepting my husband. So he like was constantly asking my husband, like, oh, like, you know, have you spoke to her parents yet? Like, is everything okay? What do they think? What did they say? So the same concerns and worries that you have about their family accepting you, they're probably a lot more concerned about their child being accepted by your family. They're aware of all of the racism and issues that they have in the US. They are aware that, especially like, see, my situation is a little bit different because I'm a woman versus like a man here. For me, I'm the one, you know, I lose my family's last name. I join their family. So, you know, my family would be concerned about whether I'm being taken care of or not traditionally. Whereas for them, they don't really care so much about, you know, a woman coming into their family, because you're not going to change the last name. You know, the last name will, you know, carry on. And on top of that, the other thing too is like, they don't, I can't really explain it. They don't really care in a nutshell because you're a woman. It's more of a concern about a man, because see, my job is to be taken care of by their son. When you're a man that's a foreigner trying to marry a Japanese woman, their concern is my daughter going to be taken care of by this man? So typically, you know, if they come from a good family, they should try to vet you, ask more questions, be concerned about your career, how much money you make, etc. Of course, I don't get any of those questions because traditionally I'm expected to be a housewife. So of course I am asked, like, you know, he didn't really ask this part to me, but he did like ask. He asked my now husband, like, if I like to cook. So like little things like that. So my husband's family, including his father-in-law, actually does cook too, so they're not lazy. But again, I don't mind the whole traditional set like that. Like, I talked about this before, but like nowadays we've really been tricked into believing that it's a bad thing to, you know, have gender roles. It's a bad thing to have, you know, a relationship like that. And of course, you know, people could do whatever they want that works for them, but the reality is it kind of works best that way. I think of it like doing a project. If everybody's doing the same thing at the same time, normally you're going to have fights. It's going to be arguments. People are not going to be all doing a, you know, equally good job. It's best if we just focused on what we're best at. One person's good at presenting, let them be the person that does the, presentation in front of the class. One person's good at being the artsy person, they can create the board. One person's good at doing research, let them do the research. So you all work on different things and it all comes together to make one good completed project. I see marriage as being like that. My husband is a really hard worker. He's a genius. He's really good at science and math. He's a doctor. Let him do his thing. I personally, on the other hand, I am good at cooking and cleaning. I am a OCD, germaphobe, neat freak. Okay, well then for me, I feel more comfortable being at home taking care of the house. So don't get me wrong, I am an entrepreneur at heart, and I do still want to have my own business. This is technically a business too, even doing YouTube. So yeah, but I don't want it to be where my income is what we're relying on. But any income that I make, I most certainly will and do share it with my husband. So don't get me wrong. But yeah, that's the way I see it. I have no problem with that type of stuff. And, excuse me, I feel really good because my husband is always really appreciative when I cook and clean for him. It makes him really happy. So I feel really happy making him happy. And he also knows that him working hard and being able to make money for us to go out on dates and buy me gifts makes me happy. So, it's a win-win situation. We both get what we want ultimately out of life. We both win. So yeah, all I want to say is don't be super scared or worried about meeting your in-laws. Just understand that there's a few things to take into consideration. There's a possibility they just didn't like your personality and or the way that you were dressed, your behavior, the way that you answer questions. Those are probably the more likely reasons why you weren't accepted versus them just not liking you because you're a foreigner or because of your race. And this even goes into the whole weight issue too. If your partner chose look at me, I am fat, okay? They didn't ask not a single question about, when do you plan to lose weight? Or, you like big girls? None of that type of stuff was asked to my husband, okay? Even if your in-laws would think that, if they marry, a fat person or a black person, which I promise you they're not even thinking that in the back of their head. But even if they were, they are not going to disrespect you because they want their child to be happy. This is not a soap opera drama. In real life, people don't act that way. And I promise you, 9 times out of 10, if your partner's trying to convince you that his parents are just prejudiced or racist and he didn't know whatever, it's likely a lie. He likely just didn't want to get married, and he probably told them he didn't want them to, approve you and say bad things about you, whatever, to try to end their relationship because he probably thought you were moving too fast, or he just doesn't want to get married at all. I talked about this before, but nowadays a lot of people see it this way. Why buy the cow when the milk is free, especially in Japan? And the reason being is, in Japan, Japanese culture, it's pretty standard that you don't fight and you don't argue early in your relationship. You wait until you get married. Until you have that ring on your finger, you need to be acting like you're perfect. You wear makeup 24/7. Your hair is always done 24/7. You're always dressed super girly, super feminine, super sexy. Your man wants sex, you're giving it to him before he can even ask for it, okay? That's the way that it goes. After you get married here in Japan, then you can be your real self. You can start wearing, jogging outfits and whatnot. You can start pulling your hair back into a ponytail. Messy hairstyles are okay. No makeup is okay. You can do things like this because you've already secured the man, especially once you have the babies that you want. It's a trap. So a lot of men are like, why even get married? Not to mention, having to go through the crap of getting a divorce or, your wife running off for your kids. That's not just an issue for foreigners. It happens to Japanese people too. So for a lot of them, they're like, why would I ever want to get married? And for the ones that do, they're like, I'd rather wait until I'm later on in my life when I don't care and I won't feel like I'm missing out on anything. So that's a lot to consider. And also consider your partner's age. For example, I'm almost 30 years old. I was 26 at the time. My partner is and was 30 years old. I just turned 27. So for him, he was already at an older age. He's already successful. He's already working. He's already a bachelor, if you will. So there's not so much of a concern, I'm missing out. He was actually the last person within his college group of friends to get married. He still has friends from elementary school that I think he refers to as his best friends. But, I don't think any of them are married. Or hardly any of them, if anyone is. But all of his friends from university are now married. And even when they were talking on the phone, they have children now and everything. He's the only one that's playing catch up. So, with that said, it makes it much easier for them to make serious decisions and to date seriously. If your partner doesn't want to get married, they simply just won't, and they'll make up any excuse under the sun to avoid marrying you. They're just simply not ready. And for that reason, you have to decide, do you want to wait out and waste more of your life in the hopes of getting married for someone that wouldn't do that for you, or do you want to move on and find someone that is ready now? So, it's hard to do, but for a lot of you, I promise you that's the better decision to just move on. And, the earlier you do it, the easier it will be for you. So, that's really it for this video. All I want to say is that everything went well. He accepted me. We're still talking to this day. He sends me messages randomly, like, checking in on me and asking me how my day was, and, just make sure everything's okay, like, asking me if, like, I want some vegetables from his garden. He's just really, really sweet. And even the fact that, like, he messaged my husband, his son, and, like, asked him, like, hey, like, have you and Rinchan gone strawberry picking yet? Oh, you guys should come to Shizuoka to go strawberry picking with me. Like, he's always, like, trying to invite me to, like, anything they do for their family. And even, like, his sister and brother were really welcoming. His sister actually gave us, a wedding gift, even though we didn't have an actual wedding. And on top of that, like, her and her husband invited us to come to her house. And her husband actually speaks English. He studied abroad in Australia. He went there for an international school, I believe in kindergarten. So he actually speaks English fluently. Might even speak better than my husband. But yeah, they've just been super nice and welcoming towards me, like both his older brother and his sister. And so, yeah, like, that's really all I have to say. Like, don't be afraid to think that your race is going to stop you from being able to date and or get married here. You will be accepted by their family as long as your personality is, well, feminine, and you seem like you genuinely love their son. They want their son to be happy. And if you're a man, dating a woman, they want their daughter to be happy. As long as you show that you're going to make her happy and you're going to take care of her, I promise you they will accept you. They're not coming in thinking lowly of you because you're a foreigner. They're not coming in angry. But also keep in mind, from a parent's perspective, they're afraid of you running off with their child and you guys getting a divorce, or you harming them, or you not taking care of them. Think of it from a parent's perspective too. Everything's not just about your race. It's a matter of fear and concern. For example, in the US, if you were to marry a foreigner, a lot of us, we've watched TV shows, we've heard horror stories, we're concerned about our children being used, for a spouse visa too. So you have to think about it from their perspective. So that's it for this video. I wish you the best of luck if you guys are watching this and you're kind of scared and freaking out because you're planning to get married, but don't, don't put yourself down or think lowly of yourself if things don't work out, because more than likely it's not because your race, it's not because you even did something wrong. It's simply because your partner didn't want to get married and he lied to you and acted like he did, and he figured, okay, I can end this more easily by letting my long-term girlfriend meet my family, and then telling my family, like, hey, like, can you guys not be super welcoming and liking towards her? I want her so I can have an excuse. Or maybe they'll put on the whole show and pretend like they really love you in person, and then later on he'll tell his family, hey, I don't really want to marry her, X, Y, and Z, and then he'll be able to also let you know, like, hey, look, I'm really so sorry, but my parents, they didn't accept you, but they'll make up whatever excuse under the sun. So some useful information that I will give, because I've watched videos where people thought they were dressing modestly and they were not. Modest does not just mean that we can't see your nipples. Modest means that we cannot see your knees. Your dress should go like to your mid-calf or down to your ankles. You should be dressed very modestly. You should also make sure that you're wearing light makeup. No full-on, full-face clown makeup with, bright colored eyeshadows, etc. You want your makeup to look as subliminal and natural as possible. You want to wear a plain neutral colored dress, something preferably dark in color. Light in color is fine too, but like, just wear something that seems really modest, meaning that it covers your whole body. It's not tight. I shouldn't be able to see your back. I shouldn't be able to see your arms all hanging out. I shouldn't be able to see your knees. Your heels should be low and modest, or just wear flats. Your hairstyle should be modest, back in a bun or a ponytail, or you could wear it down, but again, like, make sure however you're dressing, it looks modest and legitimately modest. Modest does not just mean that we can't see, your cleavage right here, but if your dress is super tight and it's, drawing attention to your breasts, you might as well have, cleavage just hanging out. So I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration and think about it from the parent's perspective, especially if they're older. Seeing a foreign woman coming with their son dressed like a prostitute would definitely be a major red flag to most parents. So do keep that in mind. So yeah, make sure that whatever you're wearing is super, super modest. If you don't know how to dress or what to wear, you can literally pick up a Japanese magazine. There's plenty of examples of what's appropriate to wear. But just look at mannequins inside of a typical store like Uniqlo or, GU, places like that. Avoid H&M because you'll see a lot of things on clearance. Not on clearance, well, that too. But a lot of things like on display on mannequins that are definitely not appropriate to wear here. So that's pretty much it for this video. Again, I wish you the best of luck, but just keep in mind that oftentimes the real reason why things didn't work out is because your partner just didn't want to get married, and his parents probably did like you, but he's lying to you and saying that they did not because he wants to break things off with you. He's not willing to and are ready to marry you. It's just that simple. And even if he's older, you might think, oh, well, he's in his 30s and that happened. He just doesn't want to get married. I dated a guy that was 42 years old it was still a F-boy, okay? Like, it happens. It doesn't matter how old they are, but I will say that dating older people, it matters to a degree. It will give you better chances of dating somebody that's serious about getting married. But anytime you're dating a guy that's under the age of, like, 35 and under, honestly, it's still kind of within the realm of potentially being an F-boy. So it is possible to get married younger, but also keep in mind that a lot of the people that get married in their 20s are cheaters. I have yet to meet a single person here that married a man that was under the age of 30 that was not cheating on their wife. Like, I've had both friends that were openly cheating on their wife and, like, their spouse just didn't know, or they got caught once and, you know, she thought that he was done. Like, nope, he's still out there being a dog. And of course, I cut ties with these people, but yeah, a lot of that goes on. If you don't care about being cheated on, you're okay with that, and you're okay with having, you know, your man having an outside baby accidentally, or, you know, whatever else, because a lot of these dudes, they're not using protection either. So, you know, look out, ladies. You know, you do you, but I'm just saying that don't feel jealous or envious. Oh, well, my friend or my coworker, you know, whatever, or my colleague, you know, my university, you know, friends or whatever, they all got married in their early 20s. You have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what they did to get married, and a lot of these people, they talked about how they wanted to get married to their spouse. Don't feel like you're left out. I'm the one who told my now husband that I wanted to get married. He wanted to get married too, but he didn't want to do this until at least a couple of years from now. But I told him how important it was for me to get married, and it was my goal to get married before I turned 27. It was my personal goal. So he understood that, and he made changes to make it happen for me. So yeah, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Best of luck to you. If you have any questions or, you know, want to leave your own story and advice, go ahead and leave a comment down below. You can also send me an email if you have any video ideas or things that you would like for me to answer in an upcoming video. Send me an email or leave a comment, please. And that's all for this video. As always, you can follow me. My social media accounts are down in the description box below. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching, and I hope you'll watch another video.